Welcome to the Production Talk podcast with me, Jan of mixartist.com.au. In this podcast series, we celebrate the modern way of producing music. We want to talk about all things related to songwriting, recording at home, and music production. So if you produce your music at home, this is the place to be. Please subscribe and recommend this podcast to all your friends. This is the Production Talk podcast, episode 53. Welcome back to another episode of the Production Talk podcast. I'd like to begin this episode by acknowledging the traditional owners and custodians of the country that we are meeting on today, the Arakwal people of the Bundjalung Nation, and I'd like to pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. Blessed love. With me today is Josh Lee Hamilton. Thank you so much for joining me today. Welcome on board. How are you today?
Yeah, great.
We're here to speak about your brand new album that was just released a couple of days ago, last Friday. But before we jump into this, would you mind to introduce yourself and tell all our listeners about yourself and your musical career?
Yeah, well, my name's Josh. I go by my full name of Josh Lee Hamilton as an artist. And I'm just a local singer-songwriter, musician from the Byron Bay area, from Northern Rivers. I grew up around this area, and here I still find myself. I love writing and creating and having my shot at producing too.
Great. And how old were you when you picked up your instrument? You play guitar and you sing. Do you play any other instruments?
Yeah, well, my musical journey started with the drums. My dad was a drummer, and then I progressed to bass. And then I think in my late teens, I was just obsessed with the idea of writing songs and writing melody, and probably one of the best instruments for that is guitar.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
So I sort of drifted away, even though I was very obsessed with that stuff when I was younger. I'd become more of a songwriter and just went down, grabbed the guitar, and it's pretty much self-taught.
Okay.
Yeah, so I had a few formal lessons, but nothing too rigorous and long.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have guessed that.
Oh, yeah. I got some strange things that I do, but yeah.
Okay. All right. So your new record is out, a new album, and you actually released it as an album because, a lot of musicians today release just a string of singles, but it's a proper old school album.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, it was preceded with a fair few singles from it, but I was at this point where the content that I had, I wanted to sort of package it and make it something to define that musical moment in my life. And that's where I was I had 9 songs, and that feels good together as a package, even though it's been a slow burn writing and producing sort of adventure over the last, I guess it started in 2018, so 4 years.
Wow.
It should take long. It should take a lot quicker than that, but I've had a lot of other things going on. So
yes,
yeah.
I understand. Well, obviously there was COVID. That probably made things really hard, but you're also a young dad. Congratulations. You've got your second one now. Fantastic. Yeah. Do you get any sleep?
I'm pretty lucky, actually. I've sort of, Sheree's pretty good, and because I got to work during the day sometimes, I get a pretty good wicket, but I've got to get up early for the first one, and so that's sort of the deal that was struck.
It's the first couple of years of being a dad. You are tired. That's normal. I wouldn't have gotten through it without coffee myself.
I'm always tired, that's for sure.
Cool, but it's great to see that you still find time to make music. And you, if I'm not mistaken, you're actually stopping by here to meet me on the way to a gig. Is that right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So what local venues do you like to play at?
So here around Byron, I'll tell you who's been really good lately is the Beach Hotel. They've just put on heaps of artists all through the COVID period. And
Great.
They've put on a good sort of setting for someone like me who's a bit more chill and sort of acoustic singer-songwriter, that doing a lot of day gigs, and that's been pretty good lately, like the last year.
Excellent.
Yeah, and then I'm going to play Fresh tonight, which they've just gone from doing for the last 5 or 7 years a gig every night. Sometimes it was 2 gigs a day, every day of the week. But recently they've tapered it back to 3 nights now. So I'm doing one tonight. But
Excellent. Good.
It's been
Fantastic.
a while. Yeah.
But let's talk about your album. So you said you started 4 years ago. So can you share the process of how the songs were written with us? Did you finish writing all the songs before you started recording? Was there a cutoff point where you said, okay, songwriting is done and now it's time to head into the studio? Or how did it happen?
It didn't happen like that.
Okay.
It was very much, progression of songwriting and recording as I went. Yeah. To be honest, I look forward to doing my next one because that's how I want to do it. I'll sort of want to have a lot more ducks lined up.
Yes.
But yeah, it was a bit more of just a flow through life of writing and then getting into a studio and recording and yeah.
So you were still writing some songs while you were already tracking some other songs, is that right?
Yeah. That's probably why it took so long.
And Josh, when do you know that a song is ready for recording? You know, when do you get to the point where you say, okay, I'll leave the lyrics, the arrangement, the melodies, everything is perfect, we'll leave it like this and we'll track it now? How do you know that you're at this point? Because songs evolve.
Yeah, well, I tell you how songwriting often goes for me. Like, a chorus comes, and then I'll get a pretty good and then I love writing bridges, then I have a first verse, and then I'll like decide I might even go and play live with a song just with the choruses, one verse. I repeat that first verse and a bridge. But then when it comes to studio time, I'm like, I've got to write a second verse. Like this, I can't, like, I was so excited about the song, I just wanted to go and play it, and hadn't written my second verse. So that usually the very last thing for me to do in terms of writing is writing a second verse. And then also like trying to work out that version of your song that's, guess it's a tight little package. Like when you play live and that, you can go over that 5-minute mark, and it is nice when you can make it a concise little package that's and trying to work out which bits
so
ready to be
saying,
pulled back.
You're saying that, live the songs can be a bit longer, but when you track, they need to be...
Yeah, they don't have to be, but like I guess... not that I'm really going for commercial purposes, but it is good when they're just that bit of a smaller, like 4-minute max.
Yeah. Good point.
Unless you're doing some experimental.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, a friend of mine once said that, it's important to finish a song before the listener is ready to skip to the next song. So that, by the time you get to the end of the song, they just want to go back and listen again rather than saying, okay, I've got it now, let's skip forward.
Well, and especially in this modern world of streaming, that's like you've got to create that desire to listen again.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. Good. And then some of the work that you did was actually recorded in studios. We worked together for a small section there, but other parts were recorded at home, if I'm not mistaken. Can you explain and can you expand on that? Yeah.
Well, the first few tracks, I was just at Garrett's studio. So he's got a cool little garage studio, which is with some solid gear and stuff, and he's got a pretty good ear. And so, I worked with him for about 4 songs.
I guess some of our listeners may not know which Garrett you're talking about.
Garrett Kato. He's a sort of like a big
name in the industry.
Yeah. He's a great singer-songwriter and does great production as well. So, yeah.
Yes, I love his music. So, an amazing human being and very creative.
Yeah, he's awesome. So, that was a great process. Sort of seeing how he works and sort of being inspired to to try and do what I can as well. It's a combination of like having that sort of like creative growth and skill growth as well.
Yeah.
Like obviously there's skill in it, and then also it's another factor is like working out a way that you can make good music without massive budgets.
Of course.
Which is like it's as an independent artist, if you're getting paid amazing advance,
So-
go to town. But yeah.
Would you mind to just sum it up for me? Which signals did you record in the studio?
Oh,
and
yeah.
Which ones did you record at home?
Yeah, so so my ones that I sort of started like the bread and butter of recording is Hair in the Breeze, Seasons. I've gone blank. Yeah, about 5 songs. Feels Like Fire. There's 2 others. I just can't even think of them. Yeah.
Fine.
Still Love You. But yeah, so most of like the bread and butter of those songs I did at my mum's place. She's got this cool.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So she's her place is in the country. It's an old primary school, and it's got this high ceiling. It's got a blackboard in it still, and it's got this amazing like live existing reverb in it, which is probably not ideal if you want control over your sound, but I've sort of like it, when it comes to vocals, especially like live performances, I'd sort of just make the most of it. And
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, and then also I've even done drums in there. Garrett did 2 drum tracks. He brought his gear to my mum's place, and he's like, this place is awesome. Like he wanted to hire my mum's place out during the day while she's at work to do his own stuff. So yeah. And then we did about 3 or 4 tracks at drums here at SAE, didn't we? So
A while ago.
yeah,
yes.
in 2020. So, and they were like, I'd done the bread and butter. With where I'm at, to do a full drum sound is beyond my skill set, and also, my gear. So
Help me out quickly. My memory is a little bit vague because it's been a while, but wasn't that a package of a prize that you won somewhere, or am I remembering that incorrectly?
Yeah. So I won like a singer-songwriter category in the North Coast Dolphin Awards, and the prize package was recording time here at SAE, and I was like, I really need to do drums for my songs, and this is the perfect opportunity. So yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Look at that. That's how it came. That's how we actually met for the first time. Yeah.
Yeah. With Ben Cox playing drums.
Yeah, that's right, Ben. Big shout out to Ben, legendary drummer.
Yeah.
The thing is, I probably was at the Dolphin Awards there as well, but we probably walked, or met each other there. I'm not even sure if we have, but we probably sat, next to each other somewhere.
Yeah.
And then we actually met in the studio, got the drums into the big room, and hit record. And I think you brought in some playback files, some guide vocals, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
We had something to listen to, like guitars and vocals, believe.
Yeah, guitars. I think I'd only got to guide track stage on a few of those songs. So maybe one of them was a lot more further along.
Yeah.
But most of the songs were at guide track. Just trying to play my tightest tracks for the drummer.
That's fair enough. And the idea of a guide track is always to replace them later anyway.
Yeah.
So you ended up with drum files, and I think from there it moved then on to your home studio, and then you bounced forward and back with Garrett. So I guess the files traveled quite a bit from Pro Tools in one studio, and then I think we needed to get the files into, was it Logic? Were you working in Logic at that time?
Yeah. I think he just gave me a big export of all the
WAV files.
yeah.
Yeah. So there we go again. It's what I call DAW hopping.
Yeah,
which is a bit of an involved process, and a lot can go wrong along the way. But it worked out for you.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And when you then worked with Garrett, did you stay in the same piece of software, or did you change DAW again?
Well, with those songs that I produced and I came to you with the drums, I sort of finished them off like with my own means, with my studio that I set up out at my mum's place in her.
Great.
Yeah, so I pretty much did all my instrumentation and my tracking myself. Yeah, and I actually sent one song to Garrett for a mix and a guy up in Brisbane that I know as well. So, yeah, so mixing's sort of, I had a good shot at it because I like trying to do it, but then I realised that I've got to like hand it over. So, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
so you sent the mix out to two different people, and was it like a mixing shootout? Where who's better? Or
I knew that a certain song was going to suit a certain mixer, and then
good.
yeah. So
right.
Yeah.
So you already had a feeling for who's strong at certain tones or certain vibes.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Look, I listened to the record many times, and I didn't pick up on different mix engineers. To me, it sounds like one album.
That's good. I was worried about that.
I wouldn't be able to pick the song.
Yeah.
Can you spill the beans? Can you tell us which song was mixed? Can you also say the name of the guy, or is that something you?
Oh yeah, Brett Anthony Shaw. Yeah, he's he's an interesting fella actually because he does a lot of composition stuff. He's a really brilliant piano strings player, and he actually he was an amazing asset because he'd add these like beautiful like sort of textural string lines, even it was just stroking one note on a violin, and it just like he'd send back a mix and he said, because that's what I'd do. I'd love the idea of like some sort of textury string thing, and you're in Logic, you're trying to find that thing on a MIDI, and it sounds pretty cool, and you're like, that's all right, like, and you sort of keep it low on the mix because you know it's a little bit inauthentic, but it's still creating an effect. But then he'd replace it with like a legit string recording and sometimes keys and that, and I was like, oh my gosh, that just took it to the next level. Like, so that was a big factor as well. Where I was like, Did
you know about that, or did he just?
No, he told me he was going to do it, and I'm like, sure, like if you want to, like, and then I'm like, oh yeah,
it was worth it. Fantastic. Yes. And second, which song was that? I think I missed that earlier.
Oh, well, that particular song, the first song I sent to Brad was Seasons. And it's sort of got this droney string that just harmonically goes through the thing as a pad. And I was just like, oh, man, that just took the song to another level. So,
Added the vibe.
Yeah, it was a real vibe thing.
Yeah, that's one thing that I really like about the record. It takes me places. It triggers my imagination, and
cool.
the cover artwork that you found for it is perfect for it, I reckon. It's a perfect place, and it's so relaxing, your music. It's vibey, and it takes me to a nice little cottage, fire going, beautiful view over the countryside. That's sort of what I feel when I hear your music. I'm not quite sure if you can relate to that, if you even intended anything like that, but that's what it does to me. So
yeah, that's good. Yeah,
it's calming. Very nice.
Yeah, we want
good for kids, calming. By the way.
yeah. It's funny, hey, like maybe like Feels Like Fire is a bit more of a upbeat song, but yeah, people still say it's calming, so I just that was me giving it a good red hot go.
It's your vibe. Yeah, cool, nice. And so in retrospect, which parts of the album came together easier, and which ones were more of a struggle for you?
I guess, to be honest, like the last two songs that I worked through, which was Days Like Yesterday and Still Love You, I got to a point in them where I was just like, sort of tracking, and then it got to the point where I just didn't know what was going on, and you get lost in a song, even like the mix isn't making sense. So you get a feel even when you're just tracking and you're sort of doing subtle mixing as you're going, like, everything's clicking. And it was there was those two songs, and I guess I had to work through them a bit harder with the mix guy as well, just to get it all to sit, to make it feel like it made sonic sense and the song worked as a vibe. Like, yeah, there's always those songs that are a bit more, testing, and they just don't flow. But, and I don't know, like, it'd be nice if every song did, but maybe it should, but
yeah. Look, rest assured, every album has the songs that come together easily and the ones that are a real problem.
Yeah.
But that doesn't really matter. Creative processes are meant to be a bit messy, I reckon.
Yeah.
So what advice would you have for other musicians who are maybe stuck in their own projects and, don't really manage to break through and get somewhere?
I don't know. I'm at a stage right now where I'm just like, just keep doing it. Like, I guess, that whole idea of perfection can be very stifling. Especially, like, when it's that combination of creativity and also if you're self-producing, it's a technical world as well.
Yes.
And then, like, probably know, like, for me right now, it's just like, I definitely know my limit. Like, I can't punch out a killer mix, like, I sort of know about it and that. So that's to know where to hand it over, but, I reckon just maybe not be too hard, like, people can be very hard on themselves, and just, and it's amazing, like, how things are, like, some songs are subpar sonically or whatever, and they still go really well. Like, if the song's got, like, a certain magic in it, you can rely on that quite a lot, Obviously, there's a sonic quality that can be that bad that you can destroy it, but with the amount of access we have to gear in basic home studios, you can pull it off. Like, it's not impossible. So
nice.
That's what I reckon.
All right. Would you mind to share a bit more about your home studio? How does it look like? How big is it? What kind of gear do you use?
Yeah, so it's portable. I wish I had a permanent space. I'm working on that. But like, when it comes to, I just have an interface. I don't have any, so I've just got the Claret, Focusrite Claret.
They're lovely.
Yeah, I have
really good converters.
Yeah. So, and then when it comes to my mics, I mostly use a Rode NTK with the one that's got the external power supply. It needs
it's a tube microphone.
Yeah, tube microphone. Yeah. So, and it's got a nice sort of, like, brilliant sound about it. It sort of seems to work with like most of my songs and my sound in general. I'm keen to get more options up my sleeve. Like, I pretty much use that for all my tracking. I've got another, like, less expensive Rode mic, like a $400 Rode NT1A or something, and like, if I'm trying to do a stereo like sound for my acoustic or something, I'll use that one at the same time. But that's, and in terms of my gear, that's basically it. And then a Logic session.
Cool.
And
and I guess some headphones. Do you have speakers?
Yeah, I've got the Yamaha HS7s, I think they are.
Lovely.
Yeah. So I use those not so much in a session. I sort of just keep my headphones on in the session. I don't, I sort of use those when I'm, like, going through mixes and assessing other people's mixes and use them as my benchmark of.
But when you track, you just leave the speakers off and use headphones only. So it's basically a Focusrite interface, 2 microphones from Rode, headphones, and you're ready to go.
Yeah.
Cool. It doesn't have to be any more complex than that. Yeah?
No,
you can achieve a lot this way.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to getting some more gear, but like I said, like, I was just like, I'm not going to let, what I don't have stop me doing stuff. So, yeah.
Okay. You mentioned that you also played with MIDI in Logic. Do you have a keyboard for that, or do you work with the mouse and the piano roll editor? What's your workflow there?
Okay, so this is interesting because I love keys in a song, and obviously doing MIDI for other things like strings and that. But I'm not very much a keys player, so I have a keyboard, I play it, and then I go back and I edit it.
Okay.
So I practice it as much as I can, but
Yep.
it's often pretty simple stuff. But just go back and edit the touch, the velocities of the notes, try and make it sound human. So it's not like I don't put things on. That's another interesting thing I learned on the process as well. I didn't edit to the grid. I edited to like what was driving the song in my mix. So say if the drummer and a bass was really pushing it, I'd edit to their wave,
Yes.
that became my reference rather than everything had to line up with the click track grid.
That's a fantastic piece of information. So you actually didn't go for the grid line, but you lined up the transients basically.
Yeah. I don't know if people do that or not, but I know a lot of people like
it is a good way
chop
to work.
up their stuff on the grid, but sometimes I'm like, like that could, if the song's already working, rhythmically, so because that's my weak point in my playing is my piano skills, but it's simple and I can pull it off, but then in terms of MIDI, you have the opportunity to edit, so I do. And that's that. I was just decided, I should edit to like what's creating the rhythm of the track, not necessarily the grid. Not everything's about the grid. So
yes, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I sometimes use a little production trick that's called tempo mapping.
Yeah.
Where I basically teach my DAW, in this case Pro Tools, to move the grid to where the drummer hit it.
Oh, that's
great. So in other words, the grid is no longer static now, like a computer, but it actually moves to where the drummer played it.
That's cool,
It's not a hard workflow. It's very, very simple to do. And then everything else can fall onto the grid and locks in with the drummer, which is a nice technique.
I wish I did know about that.
I can show you. It's doable in Logic as well.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I had a feeling that I'm doing things manually, but I feel like I'm missing out on some very valuable skill right now that would make, because the workflow wasn't ideal actually. It's very tedious just going through it.
Of course, it's time consuming,
Yeah.
But look, nobody cares about how you did it, it sounds great. And that's all that counts. The result is there. So it really doesn't matter how you did it.
Yeah.
But I really like the idea, and it makes sense. The vibe that I'm getting from your music is definitely not, the grid kind of a vibe. It's a really organic, a human feel to it. And now that you say that you edited it to the drummer's performance, not to the grid, that makes perfect sense. That explains some of the beautiful vibes that I'm catching here, I guess.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah, songs are good when they push and pull, so... Yeah.
Okay. I know that sometimes things can, go wrong in production. Did you have any catastrophes along the way? Any dramas? Any lost files or computer crashes?
Oh, I've been pretty good when it comes to that. Just that practice of backing yourself up. Like I had lost a lot of stuff before once on an old computer. Back when I was younger, and ever since, I remember just being like, basically the computer that had I have the recordings of what I did when I was younger, but it's only MP3s, like all the solid files of the sessions and the WAVs. Like I couldn't do anything with an MP3. Like I lost it all. Yeah. Like, and strangely enough, some of that stuff I got featured on Tripple-J Unearthed when I was younger. For like stuff I did in my bedroom.
Wow.
Yeah. And they rang me up and said, "Do you want to be a feature artist? Like, we love this song that released." And so it was a really weird like experience of like just putting something out there. It didn't blow up or anything, but it was a cool like encouragement, that it got recognized. Yeah.
Yeah. How old were you when that happened?
I was 21. Yeah. So it was a while ago. But yeah, the solid files, like in terms of like that was purely self-mixed. It wasn't even mastered. They played tracks that weren't even mastered, on radio. So
wow.
Yeah. So yeah, I just put it up on Triple-J, like it was full DIY. But yeah, I didn't have the opportunity to master them because I'd lost, like you can you master an MP3?
No, it's probably not really worth doing.
I lost. Yeah, so that was traumatic.
Depends a bit on what bit rate MP3 it is.
Yeah.
You're definitely not with a bad one. And look, chances are once it's an MP3, once you start to bring up the musical detail, you also hear all the imperfections that MP3 introduces. So it's a trade-off, and chances are that wouldn't work.
Yeah.
But look, again, it doesn't really matter. You got the media attention. It was played on the radio, so it was obviously good enough for them. So who can argue with that?
Yeah.
It was definitely good enough. That's fantastic. Cool. Let's just stick with the album production for a little bit longer. So you didn't actually have this point where you switched from songwriting into recording. That was more of a transition period. What about the step from production and recording into mixing? Did it all happen at the same time, or was it also, song by song ongoing?
I'd usually have like 2 songs done and then 2 songs that I was working on. So like, they sort of come in pairs or sometimes triplets,
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it was just like, to be honest, I was sort of not doing anything to a solid plan. I was just doing things when I could, so and where things were at. But when it came to mixing, I'd really give it a red hot shot. My own go, like where I wanted it to be sonically, and just especially with levels, and then even just effect wise and tone. And I'd send that to the mixer as my pre-mix, so to be a reference point. So, and I enjoyed that. Like I was just like, and it's something I want to get better at. Okay.
And did your mix engineer use this as the foundation and work from there, or did they start from the beginning again?
I actually don't know. I was very curious about that because I'd send them the Logic session. They'd have, and most of the only thing that can be the tricky thing is if you're depending on a sound from a plug-in and they don't have the plug-in. But I don't think that actually happened. I think like I use Valhalla reverb for just my guitar stuff, sometimes with a vocal effect, and it seems like those guys had it. So it was good.
They're really good reverbs, and they're also very reasonably priced, I find.
Yeah.
What are they, $50 or so for something that can
I bought
compete with the other big ones?
Whole suite of them. So
nice. Cool. Excellent. So you said that 2 songs were done and then you worked on the next 2. So when the second lot of songs got into mixing stage, did you reference back to the previous ones to just keep it tonally and balance wise and in the same pocket?
Yeah, I did, and that's what I was aiming for. I did find some songs had different energy and even like maybe that's an energy thing, but then even like from a technical perspective, like the gain structure might not have matched. I was like, why is this song sitting just a little softer? Yeah, so I guess when you're doing things like an album piecemeal with a lot of time between songs, that continuity of like your settings and of sound and energy, it might even be subliminal, might be within yourself, like how you're performing in that, in that moment compared to 6 months ago. So I don't know. I found, but I definitely I was conscious of that, and I was trying to do everything I could, like especially in the post-production realm, to get it to be close.
Right. Okay. So when it comes to, you mentioned gain staging and the volume of mixes, that sometimes actually takes to the mastering stage for it to be, balanced out. Because when you mix several songs and you work on the last song, chances are you don't exactly know how the overall energy of the first song was. Yeah. Because it's such a time-consuming process. So it's quite normal for, a bunch of approved mixes to be somewhat inconsistent in volume. And then in mastering, that's when that's straightened out, I guess.
Yeah, so with the mastering, I used the same masterer.
Okay, so was that done in one lot or song by song as well?
Song by song.
Oh, wow.
And I was always telling her, like, Kathy Norton is her name. She's based down in Sydney. I was always saying, can you get it to be close to the sonic realm of these other songs? Because it's all tying into it. So I was conscious of that and letting her know. So
so she basically knew to keep it in a similar pocket as the first song she mastered, and then she could reference. She probably had them on file, I would assume. And kept them, and always made sure they worked together, because I guess that's one of the things we really want from mastering when it comes to album work, is to make sure it sounds consistent. And like it all belongs together, which is probably not the case if you master individual singles without considering the other songs.
Actually, the only song she didn't master was the very last one on the album, called Seasons.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So the guy, Brett, mixed and mastered that one. Yeah. So, and I was just like, I don't want to change it. Like, I've already released it. I didn't. So, because that's one of the reasons I made it the last song as well. So it's like the taper off, so that it felt, if it did feel different sonically, it was the last song. You can do that with the last song.
I get it. Well played, John. Well played.
And it felt good as the last song anyway, so yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I'm actually quite amazed, To me, it really sounds like it's cohesive. It's like coming out of the same record. And now that we take it apart here, it's
saying that. Yeah.
The odds were not actually with you on this.
You see the backstory.
There were so many things that could lead to different tonal changes.
Yeah, it could have been a real mess. Yeah.
There was clearly an option, though. But creative processes can be messy, and again, the outcome speaks for itself.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy the journey that this album takes me on. So I really like how you arrange the songs on the album, how the energy flows through it, and
cool. Yeah. That's great to know that
I'm old
feel
school.
Like it's a nice package.
I still like to listen to albums start to finish, and I know that doesn't happen a lot these days, but it's very enjoyable, the journey that you take us on there. So, and I also tried it on my kids in the car. Calms them down too.
Oh, yeah. It's in competition with the Wiggles now. That doesn't calm kids down.
No, not really. Say, what advice would you have for us to get the best performances out of yourself when you are at home and you're the engineer and also the musician, and you constantly need to alternate between playing your instrument and performing, and then operating Logic and managing microphones and gain staging, the technical mindset?
Yeah.
How did you manage moving in and out of these two worlds? Did it make it harder for you to perform?
Well, it's interesting you say that, because actually the main draw card of self-production for me was actually that ability to have a bit more flexibility to capture the best performance. Like, I guess if you're going in and doing a session with someone and you're on the clock and you're paying like money, often like can be pretty expensive, and if it's that day you're out for whatever reason, you just had a horrible sleep the night before, or coming down with something, or I don't know, like that was the draw card, to like have that flexibility, like, I'll just do it again. Like, I'll find that day when I'm in a better headspace, and it's a bit of a bummer that day meant nothing, but I'll just give it, So that, when it comes to performance, that was the big draw card. But then on that moment when you're balancing, the technical world, the creative world, the feeling world, because like when you're singing and performing, you don't really want to be thinking about that stuff. You want to have that stuff, distant. So, it's a little bit tricky, like, because lately I've been trying to just pull off some really good live recordings, and that is high pressure in the sense that you got to get through a whole song, not stuff up anything. Like when you're tracking guitar and voice at the same time, you can't be sort of like while you're playing thinking about something else, because you might then sing the wrong lyrics or just hit the wrong chord, and then even though you performed 90% of that song amazingly, that one stuff up like could just be like, I've got to do it again. So I don't know, I guess there's less pressure when you're tracking just instrument by instrument, like, because you got more editing power, like that helps. So, and I try and get all the technical stuff done at the start, and then I try to switch off from it. Yeah, because I believe that a performance is are better when you're not really engaging with that technical world too much. Just as an energy thing, you know. So, yeah.
Okay. Wise words. Definitely. When you're by yourself, is it harder to understand what your performance was like? When you work with others, is it easier to say, wow, that was a really good take? You know, and I know that when you perform yourself, you need other opinions to really see through what you did and hear it with somebody else's ears. Is it harder to do this by yourself, do you find? Or
yeah, that is the downside. Yeah. I guess when you're just left to your own ears and your own decisions and your own means. Just when it comes to like reflection and assessing what, you know, if something's good or not, sometimes you need that feedback, that soundboard to, outside perspective. So, yeah, the home studio solo DIY environment, that I reckon that's the downside about it. Yeah.
And did you get a bit of feedback from the people you collaborated with Garrett? And
when I was tracking with Garrett, absolutely, yeah. And that was definitely upside. So, straight up, like, that was a great take. Or that, you should definitely do that again. Like, you know, like, and just like creative decisions as well. Like, should that part exist or not? Should it be less or more? And, you know, like, that's definitely beneficial to have that feedback in that realm, as long as you're not going down the path of creative conflict,
which can happen.
That's just it doesn't take too long for that to happen sometimes. So it's
Okay, good. So you're done with the album, and I know that, you know, getting to the stage when it's mastered and you finally release the record, that's a huge milestone, but it actually continues from then on, and you now need to promote your album and I guess play live and tour a lot, I hope. Have you got shows booked for the next coming weeks and month?
It's interesting, hey, because like some of the songs have been released as singles, and I've put in some more work on some songs when it comes to promo than others, like depending where I'm at, you know, like and with this album, I've done a little bit, but I've sort of, I've let it be just a little bit because I've just got so many other things going on. I just had a kid, my second born, 6 weeks ago, and it's a little crazy in the house. So, but I went to a hall concert for someone else's album launch the other week, and I was just like, I want to do that because it's so nice to celebrate your music and your hard work, and with some sort of live experience, it's something more intentional. So that's I plan to do that in the spring, I reckon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, obviously with a young family, you know, all bets are off, and you just have to, I guess, live your life day to day. In
a little bit, yeah.
But you've got a bit of a gem there with your album, so do whatever you can to make some noise around it and draw attention to it. And definitely, you know, to all the listeners, go to the show notes, scroll down, hit the button, and listen to Josh Lee Hamilton's new album, Days Like Yesterday.
Yeah.
What's your preferred place for listeners to go to?
I mean, I digest music on Spotify.
Yeah.
Well, that's where I am. Yeah.
So Spotify, all the other streaming services?
They're all the same, like the experience. It depends what one you choose. Like, I guess there's a lot of value in if someone decides to purchase it on iTunes, you know. But then, like, I listen to a lot of music on Spotify that I like, so, and, you know, and I share it around if I like it too, so, yeah.
Fantastic. And do you plan to release the album as CD or vinyl, as a hardware, so to speak?
Yeah, I do.
Hard copies?
Yeah, I want to be at my gigs. I haven't organised that yet. It's so interesting because, like, you know, even just 5 years ago, to have that ready was the biggest deal. But now it's just like, you ask yourself the question, should I print out CDs? Like, you know, and if you're not doing live shows, then why would you?
That's a really
it's
good
so
point.
expensive to print out like CDs, like but yeah, I'm still doing enough shows, especially locally, and it's amazing, you know, like people still buy them. You're not like that used to. It used to be a lot more of a flourishing scene. But but I want to hand over what's current in my music world to people when they see me play, not what's another CD I released in 2016 called Find Your Way. Like, it's sort of not on par or representing where I'm at musically. So I'm keen to have this one printed. Yeah,
good idea.
On disc, yeah.
Nice one. And if people want to find out more about you and your music, are you on social media or have you got a website that we could refer to?
Yeah, so social media-wise, I'm on all the platforms, Instagram, Facebook. I'm not on Twitter. I don't know. Do musicians go on Twitter?
Oh, some.
Yeah. Yeah, and a website, joshleehamilton.com. Probably should update that. Yeah, cool. But yeah, you can find me out there in the ether.
Fantastic. Look, I'm going to put all the links into the show notes to your social channels and, of course, your website. And please keep me updated if you play local gigs. I'm always happy to put this out on the podcast community on Facebook. Yeah. Promote this there. Yeah. And let everybody know where they can see you live.
Yeah, I'll definitely let you know about if I do an album launch show in the area.
That would be fantastic. Josh, thank you so much for sharing all of this with us today. Yeah. It's an amazing record. Everybody, you have no excuse. Head over, click the button, do the right thing and listen. Crank it up a little bit. Put on some good headphones if you want to. It's really a little bit of a treat for your ears.
Yeah,
the new
thanks,
record.
Jan. Yeah.
Thank you so much for being with us today, Josh.
Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers, mate. Josh Lee Hamilton on the Production Talk podcast. What an amazing episode. So I really appreciate you coming on board and sharing all your stories and your wisdom with us. I warmly recommend to head over to any of the streaming platforms to check out Josh's album Days Like Yesterday. Check out Josh on social media, and if you get to see him live, enjoy the show. You're up for a musical treat. Thank you very much for listening to the Production Talk podcast. If you want to reach out to me, you can do so via my website, mixartist.com.au, where I offer music mixdown services to anybody who needs a little bit of help pushing their projects to the finish line. Before we finish, I would also like to just maybe drop one more little thing on you. Musicians Australia is an organization that's been pushing for a minimum wage for live shows, and I would love to see musicians embracing this and putting an end to lowball offers and venues that underpay. So I believe that they suggest a minimum payment of $250 per musician per show, and I think this is the absolute minimum that musicians should ever accept. I believe actually that you're probably worth quite a bit more, so don't undercut your mates. But that's just a final thought for the episode, a message to all the listeners, to all the musicians, to know what you're worth and don't budge on this. Okay, thank you very much for listening to this episode. This is all for today. I shall speak to you again next week for yet another episode of the Production Talk podcast. That's all for today, and bye for now.